Hi, my name is Daniel Owen, and this is my case study on a good teacher turns bad. Stress at home causes problems at school. Just a quick summary about the reading. Mrs. Horton was a former teacher of the year. She's got some stressful things going on at home, separation from her husband, and a lot to deal with at home. It caused all of her attitudes, her behaviors to change at school, the way she treated her staff members, her students, just anyone she came in contact with. Um, they started getting complaints from parents, and which caused the principal to do a little bit more investigating into the problem. So we're gonna see what we would do if we were in the principal's shoes. For category one, problem identification and analysis, some things that we know. We know she has the potential to be a good teacher. She's former teacher of the year. She's in a really high performing school. Sounds like all the staff works really well together. We know that the root of the problem is really just Mrs. Horton's husband leaving. Caused her attitude to change. She's verbally abusing students. When we know that parents are becoming very unhappy with Mrs. Horton, and Mrs. Horton's unwilling to open up or make changes. And when people do try to confront her about the issues, she's very, very defensive. At one point, it said that she slammed her hand on her desk and accused people of lying about her behavior. Next, we'll look at what we need to know. I think one of the things we need to do is see who can connect with Mrs. Horton. I don't know if any of the other teachers have tried, but it doesn't sound like the principal is really able to connect with her. So maybe there's someone else who can connect with her and get her to open up. I think that would really be probably the best first step in this situation. Next, the evidence I have showing Mrs. Horton's inappropriate behavior. So we do know that there's complaints from parents. It doesn't say that there's a para or an aide or anybody that's been in the room to witness these, I guess, abusive attacks towards the children. So we need to see if we can get a little bit more evidence towards this to help write us a improvement plan for her. Got to have documentation to go along with that. So see what we can do to get some evidence there. Also, we just need to see what can turn Mrs. Horton's career around. She's got everything it takes to be a great teacher, and so we just need to get her back on track towards that. So based on what I know and what I need to know, I would try to identify the main problem. I would identify that the main problem is the treatment of the students. So that's the biggest concern we have is the care and about the students in our building. So the biggest concerns the students, and we need to figure out how we can change the atmosphere in our classroom. Got to get it back to how it used to be, where the kids feel safe and want to come to school to learn, and they don't feel that way right now. So proposed plan of action, appropriate strategies for implementation. First thing I would do is to find out if she's willing to acknowledge that her attitude's gone downhill, and see if she's willing to make changes that need to be made. I think one thing that they could do is possibly have counseling required. I know that to get through these sort of traumatic things that happen in your life, that counseling is probably not a bad idea, and that would be someone that she could confidentially confide in and let them know what's really going on. So I think that would probably be a really good idea for her to do, is to have some professional counseling done, as long as she's willing to. If she's not willing to and she's still being really defensive, then I think some steps would be taken towards finding a replacement for her so that she's not causing any more harm towards the kids in her classroom. Next, I would require her to apologize to parents and students for taking out her problems on them. That is very unprofessional, and she's got to start mending the relationship with the children and the parents. They obviously don't feel like their kids are safe in her room right now. She's got to get that changed, and she's really got to be just really persuasive in the fact that she is going to change and she's going to make things right. So definitely the children's best interests are our primary concern. I would also set up an improvement plan with Mrs. Horton. I'd state that I would have unannounced observations. Going back to what I said, we need some evidence about how she's been treating kids, and I think some unannounced observations, we might see some of these things that people are claiming is happening. I'd also require maybe like a meeting at the end of each week just to kind of reflect on some positive changes that have been made, or maybe some concerns we're still seeing. I think it would kind of help the parents and even board members and administration realize that I'm doing what I think is necessary, and I'm going to do what it takes to make sure she gets back on track. So some of the changes are immediate. The aggressive behavior towards students makes them feel really unsafe and unloved. It's going to hinder their educational experience. We already know that several kids are not wanting to come to school, and they're crying on their way to school because they don't want to be in a room. So she needs to work on a relationship with staff members as well. And really just overall, the morale needs to improve and her attitude change by the end of the semester, or I'd recommend that she be removed from her position and replaced with a more fit educator. Resolve the issues based on promoting the success of all students. First reason I believe that these steps will restore peace in Miss Horton's classroom is by helping her identify that she does have behavioral issues that need corrected. And unless she recognizes these, nothing's going to change. She's got to identify that she does have a problem and be willing to change them. Second reason, it'll restore a relationship with students. It'll take time to fully restore the trust between herself and her first grade class by apologizing to them and using kind words with them. She can begin to do so. And finally, she will regain trust she once had from parents to treat their children as one of her own and make sure that the children's needs are put before her own. So debrief the problem by reflecting on what I was thinking, feeling, and valuing. Really, while reading this, I was thinking, where in the world was the principal, and how come she didn't know about this situation before it got out of hand? I think that maybe if she was a little bit more aware, had been in there a little bit more, or even took the first claim of this happening seriously the first time, this wouldn't have gotten to such a big deal it is now. So I think that's one of the things we need to remember as administrator. Nip things in the bud early on so they don't blow up and get way out of proportion. I was feeling upset with the teacher for being verbally abusive to her students. I've got a son that's starting kindergarten next year, and I don't think I could have maintained my composure as well as the father did with the young girl in his class, or in Mrs. Horton's class, especially with having a little girl too. Parents really, or daddies in particular, really want to watch out for their little girls. So that's one of the things I was feeling. And also, we still need to identify why Mrs. Horton's taking out her anger on her students. I have an idea it's because her kids at home are causing a lot of problems just with going through this traumatic experience of having their dad leave and then just being left with their mom to take care of them. So that could be part of the reason that she's just starting to resent all children. And we need to investigate how quickly she can turn around her attitude and behavior. If it's going to take longer than a semester, then someone's probably going to need to be brought in to fill her position till she can overcome these hard times. Maybe kind of a temporary replacement to see if she can get through the things that she needs to get through. And just give her the time to do so, and then give her the opportunity to come back as long as she's turned things around. And we also need to investigate what the opinions of parents are. I do think that we should probably transfer the one girl to a different class, especially after this situation with the father in the classroom. And then just let the other parents know that changes are being made and everything will be resolved. So promoting the academic success, I believe that Mrs. Horton obviously has what it takes to be a great teacher. She was Teacher of the Year. She needs to have a complete turnaround in her attitude towards her job and her students. We know that her test scores were always high, and we're not told if they dropped. So I'm assuming she's still effective at teaching the curriculum in the first grade. She used to really collaborate well with her fellow teachers, and she needs to get back towards that point, because when all the teachers are working together, they're all working more effectively and teaching to higher standards, I think. Also going to find out if Miss Horton's willing to work on her faults, improve the relationship with her students. They need to feel that she cares about them. I know they'll perform better working in a classroom or with a classroom teacher they like and enjoy coming to school to be around. And she's also going to need to have a better relationship with parents and ensure that she's going to put their kids' feelings first. Lastly, and what can I do to enhance the instructional capacity? First thing, Mrs. Horton's going to have to start working with the other teachers on the new reading curriculum. Everything works better and kids will perform better if everyone's on the same page and working together. I know that the overall atmosphere in her classroom needs to cultivate learning. And also, my evaluations would be more complete and more thorough. I think that by taking a little bit more time to really see what's going on in classrooms will go a long way, and so that we aren't blindsided by a situation such as this, because we don't ever want a situation to get out of hand where a board member or our superintendent has to come to us about a situation and blindside us by it. So we just need to make sure that we're aware of everything going on in the school so we can get it taken care of before it gets out of hand.